Hi, NABJ family. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's digital safety training. I'm Walter Smith Randolph, your Vice President Broadcast. I'm also the Executive Producer of Investigations at CBS News New York. We know that press freedom and safety of our members and colleagues is paramount. It has always been important, but now more than ever, we need to take the steps to protect ourselves and know what to look out for. So that's why I'm excited that I am joined by Tat, Gigi, and Victoria, who are experts in this field. They will introduce themselves in just a second, but I just want to let you know a few ground rules. The first one is that this is live in living color and is being recorded, and it will be posted to our YouTube channel after this wraps up. Also, please use the Q&A box for questions. The chat box that you're used to using on Zoom is used for panelists to communicate with staff. So again, please use the Q&A box and remember that this is being recorded. So with that, I am going to toss it over to Gigi Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Walter. Hi, everyone. My name is Gigi Mohammed. I am a holistic and safety and security advisor, and I come from a background in journalism, and nice to be here with you. I pass it to Tat.
And I'm Tat. I am the program manager for digital safety training and resources for media at PEN America.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Vilk. I'm the Director for Digital Safety and Free Expression at PEN America. We are a 100-year-old nonprofit that celebrates and defends the written word in the US and internationally, and I run our digital safety programming for writers in the US. As we all know, the environment for journalists and news outlets in the US right now is increasingly hostile, with escalating physical, digital, legal, and psychological attacks. And in terms of digital safety, we're seeing governments, corporate actors, interest groups fomenting hate and harassment online, as well as spreading rampant disinformation. At the same time, we're seeing social media platforms slashing fact-checking efforts and anti-harassment and anti-hate efforts. And compounding all of this is the financial crisis that's facing local journalism, which leaves newsrooms understaffed and under-resourced to invest in safety. All of this together basically erodes trust in the media and puts journalists at risk. We know that it's not an easy time to be a reporter right now, and yet we need high quality, trustworthy watchdog reporting more than ever. The goal of our program is to ensure that US journalists and newsrooms are prepared, supported, and connected enough to do their critical work as safely as they can. And we do that in collaboration with partners, including NABJ and including Freedom of the Press Foundation, with whom we built today's workshop. So a very warm thanks to NABJ for having us, and an even warmer thanks to all of you for taking time out of your evenings to talk to us about safety. We're really glad to be here with you. Despite all of the craziness unfolding all around us, there's actually a great deal that each of us can do to protect ourselves and one another online, which then also makes us safer offline. And so I'm going to pass the baton back to my two wonderful colleagues, Gigi and Tat, and they're going to lead today's workshop. And I'm going to stay and be answering Q&A and helping in any way that I can, but I'll otherwise be off camera. Thank you all so much.
All right. Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Todd, and welcome to Bolster Your Digital Safety and Anti-Hacking, Anti-Doxing workshop. I'd love for us to start off today with a quick look at our conversation agreement. So this is a space for learning and sharing, and we ask that you keep confidential the personal stories of abuse shared in this space. We also want to recognize that it can be very difficult to talk about real-life examples of online abuse without mentioning all of the ugliness associated with it. So please take care of yourself however you need to. If you need to take a break, please do so. And through today's sessions, we really hope that we can empower you with strategies and resources to protect yourself and others from hacking, doxing, impersonation, among other abusive tactics. So here's what our session will look like for today. So we're going to start with definitions, including what is online abuse, and describe some of the tactics. Then we will talk about doxing yourself. And of course, we're not going to actually have you put your personal information on the internet, but we will walk you through how to use searches to find personal information. Then we will talk about data brokers and data scrubbers. Next, We will talk about digital security, including the importance of password hygiene, two-factor authentication, and SIM jacking. And finally, we will do an audit of our social media accounts, starting with X, or more commonly known as Twitter as well. So as we talk more about changing the culture of online abuse in newsrooms, it's really important that we have a shared language around what online abuse is. So at Penn, we define online abuse as the repeated or severe targeting of an individual or group online through harmful behaviors. And we use the words repeated to point to volume or the amount of abuse you are receiving. For example, someone flooding your cell phone or your email with so much spam that you can't use it anymore. And we also use the word severe to show that this can be just one incident that can have very serious consequences. For example, if you have been doxxed and someone posts your home address and then threatens you. So now that we have a shared understanding around what online abuse is, I'd like for us to jump into some of the tactics. So we have hateful speech. So this is speech that targets someone's identity, for example, their race, ethnicity, or gender. Then we have threats. So threats of physical and sexual violence are intended to instill fear and intimidate a target. And we often see that women, non-binary, and transgender people face more threats of sexual violence. Next, we have cyber mobs. So a cyber mob is a coordinated attack by a group of abusers with the goal of overwhelming the target with a lot of threats, slurs, or insults. Then we have non-consensual intimate images. So this is known more commonly as revenge porn, but we don't call it that because it is not porn. These are sexually explicit images that are being shared without your consent. So some additional tactics include hacking. So hacking is the unauthorized intrusion into a device or network, usually with the goal to steal, leak data, or impersonate an individual. Then we have online impersonation. So this is when someone creates a fake account to post inflammatory remarks about you or an institution. And we have seen an increase in this because of a lack of verification on many platforms. For example, on X, users have the ability to pay for verification. So someone can use my name and my photo and make posts to discredit me or my institution. Then we have message bombing. So message bombing is when someone floods your account with a lot of useless information to make it harder to find important information. For example, if your Facebook is being hacked, the hacker might flood your account, and then you might miss the notification that says unauthorized user attempted to access your account. And finally, we have doxing. So doxing is the publishing of your personal private information, like your home address, your cell phone, or, your kid's daycare. So I know that's a lot to take in. So I'm going to, pass it over to Gigi.
Thank you so much, Tat. So now, as Tat mentioned, it's important to add language that describes the things that we are experiencing as journalists, and that can also help us figure out the ways we can protect ourselves from these tactics or to mitigate any harm that may arise from experiencing them. And the first thing is, let's learn how to dox ourselves. A reminder is not publishing your personal information online. It is actually how can we think like a doxer? What are the information they're looking for? How they use it? And we're going to do the same thing. And we want to start here by Googling yourselves. And this is kind of the first step in doxing yourself. Look up your name, a combination of your names, or if you have a variety of names that you go by, look up all of these variations. And this is important because you want to see what's available on you online. So the first thing is to open Google and look up your name. Couple of things to point that are here on the screen is that on the top right corner of the screen, you will see the icon that has the letter V. And that's actually our colleague, Victoria, who you met earlier, logged in into her own account. and looking up the name of one of our other colleagues, Harlow Holmes. And because Harlow and Victoria interact with each other a lot, send emails to each other, Google normally tracks you and tracks your activities. So it will give you information and results that are tailored to that. So it will give you results that they think that you would like. So the first couple of pages, when you're looking up your name, most probably it will be some really nice things, really nice bylines, interviews you've done, panels you've been on. These are all very wonderful and lovely, but we want to look at the things that you might consider sensitive or that you might not like. Something like private personal information, personal home address or personal phone number, personal email. All of this information is what we're trying to find and, if possible, remove from the search engine. So again, you start with Google, look up your name. I want you to scroll down to the bottom of the page and look up all of the other pages. Normally, when you Google something, it will give you results that are like page 1, page 2, page 10. Look up the further ones. This is normally where things are lurking. After you use Google as a search engine to look up your names, another thing that you also want to do is to use other search engines, whether these are search engines that are privacy protecting or respecting, like DuckDuckGo or Brave, or international search engines like Baidu or Yandex. Baidu is more common and more used in China, and Yandex is mostly used in Russia. Using these search engines might give you actually different results. And the same thing that you did with Google, you scroll down, check up the pages, check up the ones that are like a little bit further so that you see what you find there. Now, what we did so far is, let's say maybe we can call it like general search using these search engines. What we want to do now is to kind of force the search engine to give you very specific results. And it's known as Google dorking or using search operators. And these search operators are really wonderful for looking up information about yourself, but also if you're doing investigative work and you want to know more information about people, that's a really nice tool to use. And I want to start by talking about the first one that we have here, the use of quotation marks when you're searching for something. When you put anything between these quotation marks, what you're telling the search engine is that, please give me the results that are exactly like what I have within these quotation marks. So you can do that with your name, you can do that with your email, and see what the search engine is giving you. Another one that I really like as well is the asterisk, which is the second one here on the screen. The asterisk normally plays the role of a placeholder or a wildcard. And what we mean by that is, here we have on the screen Rose Duper. Her first name is Rose, the last name is Duper. And we put the asterisk in between her first and last name so that whatever in between that, whatever middle name Rose is using will actually show. So if Rose is using her full first name, middle name, or only an initial of her middle name, that will give you the results, or it will give you the results with a lot of words that are in place of this asterisk. I don't want to go over all of them, but one I would highlight that is really, really cool to check is the one within that is highlighted by with red. It's using file type PDF. And here, Rose Duper is looking up her email using the operator file type PDF. And what this does is it tells the search engine to give you results that are in the format of a PDF, not a web page. And a lot of us have uploaded resumes and CVs many, many years ago. And the best practice then that we would add exactly our home addresses, our personal emails, and our personal phone numbers. So sometimes we uploaded these things and we forgot about them. And this is a good moment for us to try to find that information and, if possible, get rid of that information from the internet. Okay, so now hopefully by now, you have looked up your names, variations of your names on Google, on other respecting search engines that respect privacy or international search engines. And you also used Google operators. The other thing that you would want to look as well and look how it's being used is your images. And it's important to do that so that we see how our images are being used online. And there are a couple of ways that you can do that. The first one is when you look up your name on Google, you can click on images and see what you find. Sometimes if you have a curly hair or something like that, it will give you results. Maybe the first couple of images are yours and the others are just like random people with curly hair. And the same thing as you did for your name, scroll down and visit and check the other pages, specifically the further one, page 10, 12, all of these ones, if there are ones. And there's a really cool tool that is available now on Google, which is if you right click on your image, it will tell you to look up your image using Google Lens or using Google only. It depends on the results that you get. And then it will give you a panel on the right that will show you how an image is being used, even if it was cropped. And this is why it's really, really cool to use that tool. Another way you can look up your images and do reverse image search is to actually upload an image. And here we actually recommend using a headshot that you use for public speaking or for websites, or the profile picture of one of your social media accounts. If you do that, then it will show you, if you upload it, it will show you how this image is being used. And that's really an important thing to do. Okay, where did this all data come from, Tat?
Yeah, so you might be thinking, wait, where did all this data come from? So, right, this brings us to data brokers. And data brokers make money off of our private information. They scoop up data from the internet, bundle it, and sell it. And some of this data comes from places that we can't control, like public records and voter registration records, for example. But there are some things that we can control, like scrubbing these sites and cleaning up our social media. So that, of course, is what we will focus on today. So if you go to this site, haveibeenpawned.com, you can check if any of your emails were part of a data breach. So data breaches are events that happen when a website or service mishandles your data and hackers get access to it. And what's great about this site is that you can actually set up an alert to see if your emails are part of future data breaches. You would just click on the tab that says notify me. So if your email has been compromised through a data breach, we recommend that you change your password as soon as possible. And we also recommend that you not use that password again. So there are hundreds of data brokers who might get access to and sell your personal private information. So some examples of those data brokers include Spokeo, Nexus, Anywho. I know for myself and many journalists, we often use these sites to find sources. But what we recommend is that if you go to one of these sites, on the screen we have Spokeo. You can search for variations of your name and see what information comes up about you. So on the screen, we are searching for our wonderful colleague Harlow of the Freedom of the Press Foundation. And through doing this search, you can find out, if your home address, your cell phone number, or even if names of your family members are on this site. And I know it can be really scary to know that all of this information is available about you online, but it's important to remember that you have the power to opt out. So one way to do this is to manually remove yourself from data broker sites. This is definitely more time intensive, but Yael Grauer, who is an investigative journalist and cybersecurity expert, has a wonderful cheat sheet to help you opt out of data broker, just to opt out of data brokers. And so what you can do is that you can use this cheat sheet, and this allows you to send takedown requests to data brokers to remove your personal information from the service. And again, this is a more labor-intensive way to opt out of data broker sites. So another way to opt out of most data brokers is to use a free app called Permission Slip. And this again was created by Yael and Consumer Reports. And this will help show you what kinds of data companies are collecting about you and give you options on what to do. For example, you might ask a company to stop selling your data or ask them to delete your data entirely. There are also paid options on this app as well. Still, if you do not have the time or really the resources to opt out, you can, to manually opt out, you can buy a data scrubbing service to opt out for you. So some examples of that include Delete Me, Optory, and Canary. And again, this can take several weeks or months to complete, so we recommend that you do this sooner rather than later. And again, we want to take back power and control over what information is available about us online. So yes, data brokers feed off of our data breaches, but they also can leech onto sensitive and personal information on our social media accounts. And this is especially true if our social media settings aren't tightened. So you might have your birthday, your phone number, your location, or even names and photos of your family members on your social media accounts. And now I'll hand it back to Gigi.
Thank you so much, Tat. I want to remind everyone that you can send us your questions in the Q&A, and we will be very happy to answer them. Also, if you want to send us anything that was not clear, if you want us to repeat it, of course, you can do that as well in the Q&A. So now we kind of terrified you, and normally when people look up their information online, they find a lot of things, and it can get very overwhelming. But as Tat was saying, it is actually important to take back control and power and feel that we can actually change some of this information, or like at least remove some of them from being visible to everyone online. Now what? Let's learn how to add locks to our accounts. I want you to think about how like our everyday practices is actually affecting our safety. And this is a really, really important thing we can consider when it comes to how we are being online as people. And the first thing I want us to talk about is how do we practice password hygiene? And what do we actually mean when someone says password hygiene? And this means that what we recommend for you to use is to have a password that is at least 16 plus characters. And phrases would be the best option for that. And you can make it fun for yourself, like a phrase that can be like maybe a song that is stuck in your head, a line from a book that you like, a poetry line, any words of affirmation, anything that can make it easier for you, but at the same time keeps you more secure. So a phrase, maybe mixed with numbers, that is at least 16 plus characters. And the reason why we say 16 plus characters is that there is actually websites online that can try to figure out your password, try to guess it. And it takes, unfortunately, a very short time to do that, and they're not expensive. So the longer your password is, the longer it would take such a software to figure out that password. The second part of password hygiene is to use a distinct password for each account. And I know how overwhelming this must sound. So if I have 50 accounts, I will have to have 50 unique passwords. And unfortunately, yeah, that actually is true. It keeps you more safe, and we can definitely tell you in a minute about like how can you remember all of these passwords. So this is the first thing we talk about when it comes to like the simple things that you can do to keep yourself safe. The second thing here is to pick difficult answers to your security questions. I know that a lot of people answer the security questions very honestly and truthfully. And the reason why we tell people to invent answers, maybe create lies to these questions, is that a lot of the information that they ask can actually be Googleable. Your mother's maiden name, the name of your favorite pet. So if you post a picture of your pet on Twitter, X, and everyone can see it, and the name of your pet, so someone actually can find that answer. So just like thinking about what type of information we're using to answer these questions, and how easy or hard is it for someone else to find that information. So it's important to invent ones that are non-Googleable. Okay. And the third thing here is to get a password manager. So we said create a very complex long password that is unique for each account. and to invent answers for all of these security questions. How am I going to remember that? And this is where password managers come in really, really handy. And a password manager, it's a software or an application that you can store your passwords in, or it can help you also generate very strong passwords. And not all password managers are really equally good. So you want to choose ones that are encrypted and that they have good privacy and security practices. The ones we have on the screen here are really good ones that have good practices, and they are encrypted, something like Bitwarden, Dashlane, and 1Password. And 1Password actually has a free version for journalists. So if you Google 1Password for journalists, you provide you the page, you can send them an email or fill a form, and they will ask you for proof that you're a journalist, and they can provide you with an account for free for around 5 years, I believe. So I would highly encourage you to do that. Now, another thing that I want you to think about for your own security, for your account security, is to enable two-factor authentication on as many accounts as possible, as many accounts as that allow you to actually set up two-factor authentication. And the way I think about it is, think about the combination of your username and password as the first lock on your apartment door, in your account. Isn't it safer and better to actually add an additional lock, just in case that first lock is not working anymore or something happened to it? And this is how two-factor authentication is. And it is something that proves that you are the person who is trying to log into a specific account. And there are 3 different ways that you can actually set up two-factor authentication on your accounts. The first one, and it's the most common one, is to use your phone number, and you receive an SMS on your mobile. And for this one, we don't really recommend it that much because of something called SIM jacking, and it's not a fun thing to deal with. SIM jacking, it's when someone calls your phone company, pretends to be you, impersonating you, pretends to be you, and asking them to reroute traffic to another device or another number. And it's really easy, unfortunately, to do that because when it comes to identity verification from most of the companies, they ask you for your first and last name, they ask you for your date of birth and your home address. And if you've done all of the exercises of doxing yourself, you can see how easy, unfortunately, it is for people to find that information so that they can impersonate you and do that. But don't worry, there is a way to protect yourself from that. And there is a way that you can make that harder to happen by calling your phone company and asking them to set up a PIN on your mobile account. And if you do that, then they will not allow people to make changes to that account without providing your PIN. So think of it as a password to your mobile account as well. Now, let's go back to the other methods of setting up two-factor authentication. The other 2 methods are to use a physical key. It's called a YubiKey. And it's actually one of the most safest and most secure way to use two-factor authentication. But it honestly depends on your risk level and the amount, like the type of stories you're covering and the type of risks that you're encountering doing your work. The last one is to use an authentication app, something like Authy or Google Authenticator. An authentication app is an application that generates random numbers that expires normally within around 30 seconds. And this is how it keeps you safe. Most places allow you to set up 1 or 2 of these methods. Some of them allow you to set up several methods at the same time. Whatever way you decide to use to set up two-factor authentication, please make sure to save your backup codes somewhere safe, because you don't want to be locked out of your account, and using these backup codes can be helpful if you lost your authentication methods. So for example, if you used a physical key and you lost that key, you will want your backup codes to get back into your accounts. If you're using an authentication app and you lost your phone, you can also use your backup codes to get back into your accounts. So another thing that you can do is you can actually now clean up your Google search. And this is a really cool thing that we can do to take control over the results that show on Google about you. So Google your name again. When you've done that, the one thing is like keep a note of everything you're finding. Whatever you're finding, then you can actually remove the results. In most cases, they will ask you about the reasons why. And a lot of it is about like personal identifiable information is there, legal requests are there, or just outdated results. So these things are now available, and they're kind of relatively new. And I would encourage you to actually try them out and see. So if we actually found all of this information and we removed most of them, hopefully, or sent requests of removal, how can we keep an eye on anything else popping up on the internet about us? And this is where setting up a Google alert is a good idea. A lot of people do it for their own work. If they're covering a specific beat or a specific issue, normally they have like Google alerts for these issues or for specific keywords. You can also add a Google alert for your name and for your email. So you can know if someone mentions your name, you will be notified that this thing happened. And it doesn't have to be for bad reasons. Like it doesn't have to be necessarily for like fear of online harassment and abuse, but it can also be for good things. If someone is quoting an article that you wrote somewhere, or like mentioning you in a really nice panel that you were on, this is also a nice way to keep a track of all of the ways you're being mentioned. I want us to pause here and run a poll to see everyone's practices when it comes to what we talked about earlier about the digital security practices. So, which this describes you? I have, so now we're starting with the ones we talked about earlier about the tactics. So which best describes you? From the tactics we talked about before, have you experienced one or more of these tactics? Have you witnessed someone be subjected to one or more of these tactics, or none of the above? And let me remind you of some of these tactics. We talked about impersonation, we talked about hateful speech, we talked about doxing, non-consensual intimate images, and message bombing. All of these tactics that we've been mentioning and talking about, have you experienced or witnessed any of them, or none of the above? Let's take a couple of seconds, and then we can share the results with everyone to see. Okay, thank you everyone for answering. Here we see that 60% have said that they have witnessed someone be subjected to one or more of these tactics. 20% have said that they have experienced one or more of these tactics, and another 20% have said none of the above. First, I'm very, very sorry for everyone who have experienced one or more of these tactics, and for people who have also witnessed someone going through that. I'm very glad that there's 20% that have not experienced any of the tactics. And I hope that the content we're talking about today is actually like helpful for someone that is navigating online harassment and abuse. I would actually also like us to launch the second poll that we have. We have another poll for you that we will launch now. And just so you know, all of the polls are anonymous, so we will not know what anyone said. Okay, so for this one, which of the following describes your digital safety practices? I use the same password for 2 or more accounts. I use passwords with fewer than 16 characters. I earnestly answer security questions, for example, your mother's maiden name. I do not have two-factor authentication set up on my work email. When creating a username and password for a new software, I have directly logged in via Google, Facebook, or Twitter. I use one cell number for all my communication. Let's take a couple of seconds here. Okay, thank you everyone for answering. Here we can see that 50% of people said that they use passwords with fewer than 16 characters. And I hope that after this session, you will all go and change all of these passwords to something very strong. Then we have 17% said that they use the same password for 2 or more accounts. 17% said that they've earnestly answered security questions, for example, your mother's maiden name. 17% said when creating a username and password for a new software, I have directly logged via Google, Facebook, or Twitter. And 0% for both, I do not have two-factor authentication set up on my work email, and for I use one cell number for all my communication. Thank you, everyone, for answering. And I just want to check in quickly. And we have a question here that we might want to answer. The question is, what would you suggest to remove from our social media to prevent personal doxing? That's a wonderful question. And I will actually just pin it for a little bit because we're going to talk about Twitter as an example of what type of information we want to remove. Keep your questions coming, and we're going to make sure to answer all of these questions. Okay, so remember when I was talking earlier about how just like how we are present online sometimes affects our safety. And this is where one thing I want us to think about is it is very important to separate our personal and our professional existence online. And it doesn't have to mean that you have to have two accounts of each thing. That's up to you. That's your decision. You can do that if you want. But it means that for us to be very vigilant and cautious about what information are we sharing where and who would have access to that information. For example, when it comes to your social media accounts, if I have a very public account, I want to think about, should I actually share where my favorite coffee shop is? Should I share things about my family and my friends if my account is very public and everyone has access to? So that's a lot of personal information. But if my account is private, I might actually feel a little bit safer or a little bit more comfortable sharing that information there. That also is very relevant when it comes to locations. Can I share or should I share where I am physically at a location while I am there? That's a decision that you will want to think about depending on how you're using your social media platforms. So we just try to limit and try to make sure that there is a separation between our professional and personal existence online. So you want to keep your private life private, your personal information private, and then have your public life very public and have your own brand as a journalist, your own identity as a journalist for anyone to reach out to people or for people to reach out to you at the same time. And another way that you can also separate your personal and professional life is that to separate your phone numbers, to have a phone number that is specifically for your personal life and another phone number that is purely for work and to talk to sources and to do interviews and all of these things that you need for your work. And there are several ways that you can do that. First one is to get a virtual phone number, a Google Voice number, and that's free. So you can use your personal Gmail to sign up and get a phone number and you can use it. The one thing I would remind people with, if you have a Google Voice number or create one, is that you will actually have to keep using it, even if you're sending just a text message to yourself, so that it does not get deactivated. So if you don't use it for a while, your Google Voice number will be deactivated. There are other options as well. You can call your cell phone company or provider and get a second phone number, or get a second SIM card or a second physical phone. Again, that all depends on your own situation, the risk level that you're in, and the type of work that you're doing, the type of stories that you're writing. Now, another thing we want to think about here is to clean up your Facebook posts, or actually generally your social media posts, your old ones. And Facebook has a really easy tool to use actually within it itself. It's a tool within the platform itself, which is that you can go to your activity log and then click on managing posts or manage posts. Then you can filter the categories. And a really good way to do that would be a bit less overwhelming is that you can divide it by year. You can say, okay, I'm going to do this year this week, and next week I'm auditing another year, or the week after I'm going to audit another week. Of course, that all will depend on how long have you been on social media and using Facebook. So the volume of things that you will want to change will differ, but that's a way that you can make it a little bit less overwhelming for yourself. And then that will give you options to archive posts or trash posts, remove them and delete them. And the reason why we talk about cleaning up old posts, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, anything, LinkedIn, whatever, or Instagram, is that sometimes trolls and bad actors would go to your old posts, whether take them out of context and get you in trouble, Or sometimes when we started Facebook, at least that was in my case, we were posting everything everywhere all the time. So sometimes we posted things that we should have not posted because it's sensitive information or personal information. And now we can go back and change that. We can remove them, delete them, or archive them, or change the settings to only me. That's your decision. And the same thing you can do for Twitter as well. So for Twitter, you can use a tool called Tweet Deleter, and it's a third-party tool, and it has like a very small. It has a free version, but then it has like pricing for it, and you can use it to delete or archive a lot of your old tweets. So that's another tool that you can use.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
want to pass it to Tat.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to use Twitter and X as an example for how you can tighten your social media settings. There's also a QR code at the end of this slide deck to help you strengthen your settings on other platforms. So please feel free to follow along using your phone or your laptop. So many of us, as Gigi had mentioned, have had our social media pages for a very long time, and we might have forgotten about the information we posted about in the past. So to help you feel more in control of your X history, I'd like to introduce you to the desktop at Sid Social. This is also known as Claw Back Your Data. And this is a tool that you can use to help save and batch delete old tweets. Next, I'd like for us to take a moment to look at our privacy settings on X. So on our profile, we want to think about the information that we're showing people. So if you look through your profile bio, we want to keep private your birthday and set that only to you, or you can leave that information blank. Then if you go to settings and privacy and then click on your account, we recommend that you download an archive of your Twitter or X history. This is just in case, if X, implodes, or you just want to keep an archive of what you have posted on the platform, especially if you don't want to keep your X or Twitter account. So now this moves us to login security. So I'm going to walk you through how to set up two-factor authentication, but I just ask that you do the setting up of 2FA later when you have, your undivided attention on it. So when it comes to account security on X, as Gigi had mentioned before, it's really important to set up two-factor authentication. So 2FA is one of the most powerful ways that you can protect your account. And again, 2FA requires you to provide a PIN to prove you are the person logging into an account. And we recommend you use an authenticator app such as Authy or Duo. And just know that no matter what authentication method you use, please make sure to save your backup codes somewhere safe in case your device is stolen or if it's lost. We also encourage you to revoke unauthorized apps linked to your account. So please click on Apps and Sessions, and just make sure not to revoke iOS. So we often get into the habit of linking applications to our account, and we can forget why. We might have like a Twitter bot that posts on our behalf and maybe the Twitter bot will like tweets for us or message folks for us. So we just want to make sure to revoke unauthorized apps linked to our account. We may also forget to log ourselves out of old sessions. Maybe you logged into your grandma's computer over the holidays, for example, or into your grad school's research center and forgot to log out. We want to review and revoke unfamiliar sessions. And I say this because it's really important to have a baseline to know where you are logged in. So I can say, I am logged in on my phone and my personal or work laptop so that if any other sessions pop up, I know it's not me. Next, it's important to review accounts connected to your profile on X. And so we recommend that you disconnect old accounts. We also recommend that you test out the delegate feature on X. And this feature is especially important if you are experiencing a lot of online abuse and aren't in the headspace to monitor your account. So you can use the delegate feature so that someone can post, repost, direct message, schedule posts, and delete posts on your behalf. So this feature allows you to safely give account access to a trusted contact without sharing your password with them. And I know that I'm going through a lot of features right now, so I'm just going to pause for a quick sec to see if anyone has any questions that they'd like to put in the chat.
I want to jump in to add one small thing about connected accounts, because this is one of the things now that like a lot of the social media platforms are changing their settings. These are some of the things that you want to check what you connected before and remove the things you're not using. And a lot of the things we're talking about, I know we're talking about Twitter and X specifically, but a lot of these settings are available in other platforms. So we're just using Twitter here as an example of why we're changing these settings. And I want to take this as an opportunity to answer the question that we penned earlier of what would you suggest to remove from our social media to prevent personal doxing. Tat mentioned earlier the date of birth. That's a big thing that we recommend people to remove. If you have something in your bio or description in your social media accounts, make sure that like if you want to add a phone or an email for sources to reach out to you, that these things are not your personal ones, that are your like you have an other dedicated accounts that are for work, so you can add these ones there. So these are some of the things I want you to think about. Back to you, Tat.
Thank you so much, Gigi. So now that moves us to post privacy and who can see your stuff online. So when you turn on protect your post, you can find that feature by going into audience and tagging. So again, when you turn on protect your post, people that do not follow you can't see your post or respond in the comment section. So this might be a good option for you if you're feeling unsafe on X and you need to limit the reach of your content. We also encourage journalists to audit their photo tagging settings. So we normally don't want someone to tag us in a photo on X. If that does happen, there's a risk that you might be you might be tagged in a abusive post. So remember, you have the option to select only people you follow can tag you in a photo, or you can turn this feature off completely. Now let's move to safety mode. So if you go to privacy and safety, you can click on safety mode. So not a lot of people have this feature on X, but if you do, we also encourage you to turn this on. So this feature allows X's like algorithm to automatically block abusive or spammy content.
One more note on protect your tweets or protect your posts or protect your videos. This only applies to new ones and new followers. So if people are already following you, they will be able to see your posts even after you enable protect your tweets or protect your posts. So it applies to any new follower that will follow you after you enable it, and also only to new posts, not the old ones. Old ones will not be protected in that way. Back to you.
Thank you. And we also encourage you to toggle with the mute and block features in your privacy settings. So we recommend that you review and manage accounts that have been blocked or muted. We also encourage you to review any muted words and add words that you don't want to show up on your feed, and to review any muted notifications and adjust those as needed. So it's important to note that you can mute words and mute notifications from users that are demanding a lot of your headspace. And that muting allows you to hide abusive content from yourself so that you don't see it. For example, if you mute a slur, you won't see it, but your followers will. It's also important to note that an abusive troll won't know that they've been muted. That being said, if you do block someone, that is more severe and final, and someone can usually tell they have been blocked. So sometimes this makes trolls more angry, and the abuse can unfortunately increase. And now this moves us to direct messages and how to secure our direct messages. So remember, it's entirely up to you whether you want to accept messages from people online, and you have the ability to toggle with this setting. So if you're feeling unsafe on the platform, you can turn off message requests from everyone. But we also know that if you are someone with a public profile, a journalist, right? Completely turning off your messages can be really difficult. So there is a middle ground that we have. So if you allow messages from anyone, you might consider turning on filter low quality messages. So this will help weed out any abusive or spammy content. I also recommend turning off show read receipts. And this is important because, some people, we don't want everyone to know that we've interacted with the message. So we recommend that you turn off show read receipts. You might also turn off enable audio and video calling. Now let's talk about discoverability and context. I recommend disabling let others find me by email and find me by phone. And this is because when people enter your email or your cell phone number into X, this is like you're giving that information to the platform, and we do not want to do that. We also recommend disabling sync address book contacts. So this is almost like you're giving your friends personal information to the platform.
I'm just gonna jump in here as well to add some information about find me by my phone or email. Is that you're connecting all of your accounts together if you have this one active. So think about it as like a puzzle, your different platforms as a puzzle, and like if all of these accounts everyone can find you by your phone or email, then they only need to have access to one of these things to find your LinkedIn, to find your Twitter, to find your Facebook, to find your Instagram. And if it's for malicious intent, that is really hard because instead of like having to deal with something horrible on one account, then this will be migrating from one account to another to another. So we just like want to limit, specifically if it's also a personal account that you don't want people to find. If you have that setting on, it will be easier for people to find it.
And now this moves us to data, ads, and location sharing. And we recommend disabling personalized ads based on places you've been and turning off precise location. If you want people to know where you are, just tell them. We don't want an app deciding how it will use our location. Also, it's just for safety to protect yourself, from stalkers in real time. We also encourage you to disable personalized ads based on your inferred identity. This is just another way, again, to take control of your online presence and data that you're sharing with social media platforms. And now I'll toss it back to Gigi.
Thank you so much, Tat. So now we're wrapping up this training, this session, and we want to share with you that if you, this QR code will lead you to a very detailed step-by-step checklist that can help you guide you through changing all of your privacy settings in a lot of social media platforms, not only Twitter. Again, we use Twitter as an example of what are the things that we want to look at and what are the things we want to change. But if you go to this link, or the QR code, you will find a checklist for a lot of platforms, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and Instagram. And that will help you do that and guide you step by step. So you can do it in your own time and you don't have to rush and follow us now in doing all of these things. And I want to close by showing our online harassment field manual, which is a really wonderful resource that PEN America created in collaboration with a lot of journalists, technologists, and psychologists, so that it can provide you with a lot of information about how to navigate online harassment if and when it happens, whether you are on the receiving end of it as a writer or as a journalist, if you are an ally and you want to support a colleague or a friend or you witnessed it online, or you are an employer that wants to support their staff and freelancers. I highly encourage you to visit the Online Harassment Field Manual. And these are our information. And thank you so much, everyone. And I want to pass it to Walter.
All right, thank you so much, Gigi, and thank you so much to Todd and to Victoria as well, and to our NABJ staff, our wonderful NABJ staff as well, for helping us run this live workshop. And thank you to everyone at Pan America. Again, you have that bit.ly/social media lockdown, so that way you can go and take that. I just bookmarked that as well, so I can go do that at home. But thank you so much again for joining us. And I'm going to take this opportunity to also say that we're having our Emerging and Investigative Journalists Summit in New York City on Saturday, April 26th. So that's coming up, and Victoria will be on a panel talking about press freedom as well. So again, we are really concerned about press freedom and protecting our journalists. So again, thank you for everyone for joining us, and thank you to our panelists as well. We have our convention coming up as well. Registration is now open, so make sure you go to nabjconvention.com. It's our 50th anniversary. We will be in Cleveland. We were in Cleveland a few weeks ago. It was great. It's an underrated city. We will be talking about press freedom there too as well. You might see Todd, you might see Gigi, you might see Victoria. So please join us in Cleveland. Join us here in New York as well. Region 3 conference is coming up in Charlotte. Region 1 is at Howard University this weekend. We have the Basics Boot Camp in Houston. I'll be there as well. So thank you so much for joining us, NABJ family, and thank you to our panelists again. And I hope everyone has a great evening.